Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Friday, 20 June. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about New Zealand pausing Cook Island aid over a deal with China. The Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda are set to sign a peace agreement, and Indonesia has inked a strategic partnership with Russia. So firstly, New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said on Thursday that millions of dollars in funding for the Cook Islands would be suspended while his government examines the breadth of content of an agreement with China. Luxon, who was visiting China for the first time this week, said that the Cook Islands was not transparent about the scope of its strategic partnership with Beijing. We've suspended some of the aid money until we can get clarity on those issues, he said while in Shanghai. The funding pause amounts to 11 million New Zealand dollars development and assistance payments for the next financial year, according to government figures. New Zealand is the biggest provider of financial support for the Cook Islands. The funding pause is part of a larger friction between New Zealand, Australia, and smaller Pacific Island nations that China is approaching with partnership agreements as Beijing works on expanding its influence in the Pacific. In February, the Cook Islands surprised New Zealand by signing a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement with China on deep-sea mining, regional cooperation, and economic issues. The agreement did not include security cooperation, but it did allow for more China-funded infrastructure projects. The Cook Islands was formerly part of the colony of New Zealand, and today it is self-governing and currently has a free association relationship with New Zealand, sharing a military and passports. New Zealand also provides the Cook Island with budgetary assistance and advices on foreign affairs and defence. Cook Islanders can freely work and live in New Zealand with heightened security concerns after this agreement with China. So what? This is pretty interesting to see, and it's definitely not the first small Pacific island that has made such an agreement with China, much to the discontent of Australia and New Zealand, and I'm sure it won't be the last. From my experience, what kind of happens is China can come in and give these countries money with very little oversight or requirements as part of it, whereas when New Zealand and Australia provide aid, it comes with multiple caveats on what you can do with it, how you can spend the money, etc., which kind of annoys them. While this agreement so far doesn't include military cooperation, it possibly could in the future, and it could possibly lead to Chinese naval vessels using the Cook Islands as a place to refuel, resupply, and rearm on their travels around the Pacific, which is something that New Zealand and Australia don't really want and really try to get stop as much as they can. So yeah, it'll be interesting because the Cook Islands gets a lot of benefits from the relationship with New Zealand. So yeah, it's something that New Zealand really wants to try and stop. And next, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda are set to sign a peace agreement on June 27th, they said in a joint statement with the US State Department on Wednesday. The country's technical teams have already initiated the draft, which is expected to be formally signed in Washington next week. The draft peace deal aims to end fighting in eastern Congo, where Rwandan-backed N23 rebels made a significant advance at the beginning of the year, capturing the strategic city of Goma and a town called Bukavu. The US Secretary of State Marco Rubio will witness the official signing ceremony next week, he said. The agreement announced on Wednesday builds on the Declaration of Principles signed between the two countries in April. So what? From what I understand about the agreement, it doesn't necessarily mention M23, and people looking at the deal are skeptical on whether it will actually stop the fighting in Eastern DRC. It's essentially a peace agreement between the DRC and Rwanda and doesn't actually state. Rwanda denies supporting M23, so and they still deny it. So they're like, oh, well, that's not part of us. So, yeah. But yeah, so it seems unlikely that this is going to be a long-term solution, but it possibly could be a short-term solution. We'll see. It doesn't seem likely that the M23 will withdraw from their current positions, as they're pretty well established in those two towns I mentioned earlier. And lastly, the Indonesian president has signed a strategic partnership agreement with Russia on Thursday following talks in St. Petersburg with Vladimir Putin. The agreement comes as Indonesia enters the BRICS agreement as a full member, and the president said on Thursday he thanked Putin and his support for Indonesia's BRICS bid. Putin called Indonesia one of Russia's key partners in the Asia-Pacific region. Again, much to the disgust of Australia, I have no doubt. Indonesia's president maintains a non-aligned foreign policy, vowing to share close ties with any country, including Russia and the United States. His government has already announced trade concessions to avert the threat of US tariffs, and he also insists that Indonesia will not join any military bloc, although it does conduct joint naval exercises with Russia. In 2023, it upgraded its relationship with the US to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Nevertheless, Jakarta's close ties with Russia have caused concern among Indonesia's Western allies. So what? This will not be positive news for Australia. Indonesia is a very large country that sits directly north of Australia, for those of you who don't look at maps very often, and they will not like this at all. Australia has a tense diplomatic relationship with Indonesia, and over the years there's been a bit of tension around Australia doing military drills, essentially using Indonesian forces as the enemy they're planning to defend against. And Indonesia found out and got upset, as you would expect. But yeah, while this is most likely just part of the BRICS agreement and a trade deal, which is totally understandable for Indonesia, this will not be seen positively by Australia, who do not want more Australian presence in their backyard, and they do not want Indonesia aligning further with China, which they already are in a significant way. So yeah, bad news for Australia, and New Zealand, to be fair. New Zealand is definitely also doesn't want this, but it is directly affects Australia due to the close proximity of the country. It'll be interesting to see how Australia responds. I don't think they'll do anything or say anything at this point, as Indonesia's pretty far down that line. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. This has been your Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again next week. See you.